I don't like anything children like because it's usually messy, loud. But I think we misinterpret the word fun. And fun for a child, because they ask for lessons with me.
Right.
In the holidays,
Wow.
they ask. And I think for them, fun means achievement. When they feel they've achieved something, that is fun.
Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for another lovely podcast on Entrepreneurial Truth. Today we have Gail Hugman with us, amazing entrepreneur, teacher. I want to get into everything about Gail, but I would love for Gail to introduce herself, tell a little bit about her story, how she started, and where she is today.
Great. Thank you very much, Kessie. Well, it's quite a long story because I've been teaching now for 50 years this year, and I'm very proud of that. I spent 30 years teaching in London, in and around London, with 1 year in America, in Boulder, Colorado. And then I realized I wanted to do something fresh because I didn't want to become stale. And so I set up my business to work one-to-one with children. Well, initially to help parents understand what motivates children so that they could then support their children more effectively and feel confident doing that. And so for the last 20 years, it's been quite an interesting journey because I've worked with all levels of society, so many different nationalities, and you wouldn't believe it. Well, you probably will. Every single parent runs into the same issues. And this is to do with the core of a child. And so I wanted to know, what is it that actually drives children to be the best they can be? Because we see a lot of discord in the world, and I don't believe we're born with all the negativity. And I wanted to know, how do we keep that bright, keen, enthusiastic, wanting to grow, wanting to develop? And I think I found some of the insights that will help parents, that will make the job easier, that will make the children happier. And so far, the feedback has been really great. And I've just written my third book. So I now have, the first one was a short and simple book for the whys, WHY, which was to tell my head teacher why I was leaving teaching in school. And when I told him I wanted to focus on children's motivation, we went for a drink together, and he said to me, "Do you really think this can be taught?" And I said, "Yes, and I'm going to prove it." And it's taken me a long time, but we are all constructed the same way. No matter what culture we live in, no matter what color our skin, no matter what faith or, we are all human at core. And I wanted to know, what is it that makes that core, and how do I help it develop? And you need school. You need school. You have to have school, but there's not time in school to do everything that a child needs for this world. So my second book, I actually didn't ever intend to be a writer, but I realized from working with children one-to-one and finding some common ground with all the different children, I realized that there was a whole hidden curriculum, if you like, that parents would find helpful. And it is to do with this core, because when we're born with huge potential, huge, every single one of us. And we're born with drive. There's a natural drive. There's a natural intelligence. And what happens is we run into the negativity of the 21st century culture, and that can knock us off track. That can cause issues which we later take to a therapist. And I'm trying to put therapists out of business by getting in early and saying, not that way, this way. Because, I've met some amazing children who have got stuck. And there are some fabulous lessons, and I thought I have to write this down. And I wrote a book. The title came first, 100 Things to Learn Before You're 10, because I believe that period between birth and puberty is when the brain is most actively soaking up and creating neural pathways and creating the foundation for the life. Mm-hmm. And once that is in, it's like the foundations of a building. It's very hard. All you can do once you have that foundation established is manage anything negative. Right. So I don't want to change anything about a child. I want to help them learn to manage the negativity of the world in a way that protects their core. Mm-hmm. So that they can see it for what it is. And what happened was this marvelous lesson that I call the 2 lives. And it was when a child said to me one day, and I expect there'll be parents who listen who will recognize this, when I asked a child to do something and he said, "Why should I?" Mm-hmm. There's no more sinking feeling than a child saying that to you, and you think, oh. And I said to him, when you're born, you think you have a life, mm-hmm. but actually you've got 2. And that stopped him in his tracks. And I said, let me explain it to you. And I drew a line, 0 at one end, 100 at the other. Mm-hmm. And I put lines every 10, so 50 in the middle, 10, 20, 30, 40, mm-hmm. up to 100. And I said, when you're born here at 0, you know nothing. Mm-hmm. Apart from mm-hmm. how to move, you don't even know what day of the week it is.
Right. And
you are totally reliant on everybody.
Right.
And then here you've got a job to do before you get to 100. And I said, if you're lucky, you can go on. But between birth and 100, you have a job to do. Mm-hmm. And that job is to live a life. And mm-hmm. I said, part of it, you get a natural life, which is the same for every single person on this planet. So between birth and 10, you're a child-ish. Mm-hmm. Between 12 and 20, you're a complete nightmare. 20 and 30, you're a young adult. And then you become a responsible adult and you start to put your contribution in the world.
Right.
And I go all the way through, and I've never known quite what to say at the end, but I say to them, and then you get to be a senior and you start tidying up before you go home. And I said, then that's your natural life. That is the same for every single person on the planet.
Right.
And your job is to grow and develop that. I said, then your second life is your world life. And your world life is completely different to every other person on the planet, because it depends where you're born. It depends who your parents are. It depends what language you speak. It depends what foods you eat. Mm-hmm. And you have this whole like a banquet of opportunity and experience. And you're meant to look at that and take things from that to grow and develop yourself.
Right.
And this was the lesson of the 2 lives. And this boy's head was spinning by the end of it. And he just went, wow. And I said, now do you know why you need to do it? And so having sat by so many children, and instead of saying, well, you have to do this because I say so, because that's the old way, these children, you know, a child born today has the same brain, the same sort of, you know, body, the same sensitivity, the same creativity that somebody born 100 years ago had.
Right.
But life is very, very, very different from 100 years ago. And even now, parents have no, you know, beyond changing nappies, making bottles and things like that, there's very little to guide them apart from their own childhood and everybody's opinion. And I thought, how do we make it so it's a core truth and not everybody's opinion?
So let me
I
ask
wrote
you.
that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me ask you. Was that what made you go into so seeing the change after teaching for 30 years, right? Was that what led you to then write that book? Was that what led you down that pathway? Was seeing that the change happened, but the curriculum was still the same and we were still dealing with kids the same way?
I think it was obvious to me. I think the last year that I was actually in the classroom, I had a student teacher dropped on me. The head teacher came rushing in and he said, I've got a student in here today. I completely forgot. Would you mind having him in your room? Well, nobody, you know, you're all set up and then this visitor is going to come in and watch, and nobody likes that. But I said, okay. So this young man came in, and it was the first day of the school year. And I had year 6, who are the senior children in the primary school. And he was standing at the side, and the children started to pour through the door, pushing and shoving. I'm going to sit here, and no, I want to sit by him. And I took a breath. It was like, because I was going to call them to order, and I thought, I'll wait. I didn't say a word. And I watched them as they pushed and shoved and threw their backs down and everything, you know, chaos. And I remembered my first day in teaching, when I had 2 lines of children silent in the playground waiting for me. And the contrast was so stark. And it's not that that was correct, because those children were just terrified. You know, it was just, I wondered what this young man made of it at the time. And so I had that contrast, and I thought, I've been teaching for 30 years and the world has not improved.
Wow.
Why do I feel more worried about the future of these children than them?
Wow.
And so when everything had calmed down, and I said to them, it was quite funny, because I just stood there, and then they started to go quiet and say, why hasn't she said anything? You know what children, why hasn't she said anything? And I waited until all that finished, and they were all looking at me. And I said, I'm amazed you did that. And they're all looking at each other thinking, who did what? I said, I am amazed that you came in on your first day. You're the senior children in this school. Not one of you said good morning to me. Not one of you asked if it was okay to go to the places where you're sitting. Not one of you acknowledged our visitor. You just came in, pushing and shoving. Whatever has happened to your self-respect?
Wow.
And honestly, you could have heard a pin drop. And I left them where they were. And I said, I don't know what you want me to think. I am your teacher for the next year, and you've just done that. Okay. That's where we're starting from. And the next day, they all lined up in silence outside the room.
Wow.
And I thought, I didn't ask them to do this. It's that children are incredibly intelligent.
Right.
The way society treats them as though they're empty and they don't know anything means that they get bored. I see between birth and one, you see mothers and, they will take them to have a coffee with their friends. The child will be crying because it's got these lights in its eyes and nobody notices.
Right.
And nobody does anything. They're just lying there. Now, my third book, which I've just finished, Making the Pennies Drop. This one I love. I love 100 Things. But I'm going to re-edit that because I started with the title of that one. This one, I thought parents, I need to explain how to do this.
Right. And
so this has got my assessments in it. Easy stuff. Honestly, it's ever so easy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's got the core needs of children and how to teach that. And honestly, it's stuff you do every day. Just don't explain it in the way that helps, that is as effective as it could be. And it's got big writing. And everybody says, everybody picks it up and goes, oh, it's an easy read. So,
and I know when we spoke, when we spoke about it, we were talking about like the differences between the 3 manuscripts that you have. I want to segue into the differences between the 3, why you really like this one, and then that journey.
Wow. Okay. The first one was the head teacher that I told you about, asking me. I had no intention of being a writer, but the head teacher, when I said I was resigning, closed my door and he said, before you leave, I want you to tell me. And I said, tell you what? And he said, when the children come to you, something happens. And I want to know what that is, because they really start to make progress more and they love it and it is magic. And I want to do that magic, which I thought was great. He was a great teacher, actually. I really liked him.
Wow.
And I said, well, I do what everybody else does. I teach maths, I teach English, but I knew what he meant, but I couldn't explain it.
Right.
And so I thought about it for about 6 months. I thought, what am I going to say? And it played on my mind. And I woke up at 4 o'clock one morning. I used to write at 4 o'clock in the morning because it's lovely and quiet. And I woke up at 4 o'clock and I went downstairs at the time, made myself a drink, and I sat down and I started to write, because I realized that and I was looking at a mug that a child had given me for Christmas, and her father, when it was given to me, it had some tea bags in it. And I said, oh, that's lovely, thank you very much. Then I noticed it had writing on it. I think that every single human being is extraordinary. If there were none on the planet at all, and there was only you would just love to see me.
Very true. Very true.
You would just love to see me, and you would think I was awesome because of what I can do.
Right.
Well, and I say to the children, do you know there is nothing on this planet that is as sensitive, as intelligent, as creative as you. And I want you to be proud of that. And the children, you know, when they were misbehaving, I'd say, you're an example of the most sensitive, the most creative, the most intelligent form of life on earth. Why are you doing that? You know?
Yeah, but it makes them think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at the world, where can they see that?
Right.
Where? You know, there's so much hostility that, and I say to the children, you can see the world is not a very happy place.
Right.
Because they've just arrived here. And they go, yeah, right. And I said, well, do you want to make it better or do you want to make it worse? You've got a choice. You can make it better or you can make it worse because you're a thing that does. And they always say, I want to make it better. And I said, well, start today. Start today by being the very best you can be.
Mm-hmm. And that is why I love what you're doing. And I love the books that you are bringing out, you know, for parents to be able to guide their kids better. There aren't many books that really, and I always used to say, I wish there was a book on parenting, you know. So I'm so glad that we could have you on and bring light to your book. You know, I want to talk about you and your journey in writing these books. So, you know, you left teaching 30 years ago, and over the last 20 years, you've dedicated your time and energy into pouring into these books. What has that journey looked like for you professionally, you know?
I think the 100 thing, but when I walked around an exhibition in 2000, just before I set up the business, or as I was about to, it was all early in the process. And I walked around an exhibition of resources for teachers. And there were people saying, you know, if you use our pen, your child's handwriting will be amazing. I thought, no, it won't. If you do this, this will solve their dyslexia. And I think, oh. And I was walking around. As I walked around, I got this pain. It was like an ache in my middle. It was a deep, deep ache. And I thought, there's something else. There's something else. And I don't know what it is. And I went home and I started writing again. It's funny because I say I'm not a writer, but and I wrote a story called Little Hum. And Little Hum is a longing from the other side of creation. And Little Hum is looking for an adventure. And he goes tumbling around. And it's a lovely little story. And it's, you know, he's born where the stars always twinkle and the angels do the dusting and things like that. He's right away. And he's looking for an adventure and he goes hurtling through the universe. And he ends up in a queue because he's English. And the queue is to get a body, because if you get a body, you can feel things and you can do things and you can have the most amazing adventures. Anyway, I wrote this and I went to an organization here that supports young writers. And somebody said to me, have you thought of writing meditation for children? Because this is the sort of thing that would, you know, I have never published this, by the way. I've still got the handwritten manuscript. And I've never published it, but I sent it to an editor and she destroyed it. When she sent it back, I got so personally involved. I thought, I'm never going to let anybody look at my work ever again. Because she said, nobody will identify with that. Nobody. I said it was a young, unseen longing. And I couldn't describe what it looked like because no one has ever seen a longing. And she said, how is anybody ever going to make sense of that?
Wow.
And so I was really upset. So I didn't go any further with it. So when I wrote 100 things, I wasn't going to let anybody look at it.
Wow.
And I've been told it's a really great book. There's some great content in it. And I agree, there is some fabulous content because that 2 lives lesson is in it. how I talk to children about a brain is in it. Everything you need to know about listening is in it. But the writing's small and dense. But that's because I had no professional help. And the person who published it for me ran a small publishing company. He loved the book and he loved the stories of the children in it. And I'm going to redo it in the same format as this one. But so I went away. I took myself away because, you know, trying to write in this world is like at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm asleep.
Right.
It doesn't happen like that anymore. And then every day, if there's any little difficulty, I'm just like every other human being. Oh, I've got something else to do.
Right.
So,
You put it off.
there were too many. Yeah, there's too many distractions. And the title was in my head for so long. And in the end, I actually took myself to a writer's retreat. And it's a place where you have, it's fabulous, actually. There's only 4 writers go there. And you have a small apartment to yourself, and they provide food, and there's nothing. There's no TV. There's nothing. You can't. All you got to do is write. And so I wrote 20,000 words in 4 days.
Whoa.
And then I looked at it, and I thought, this isn't what I want to say. I'm writing what people think I should say.
Wow.
And so I deleted all of it, and I started again, and I thought, I'm going to say what I want to say. And and that's how 100 Things started. So by the time I got home again, I was already into it, and I love it. I mean, it starts with the comparison. I've actually got the figures here. The year I was born, please don't look this up. The year I was born, there were 2,665,865,392 people on the planet.
Wow.
This year now, there are 8,111,930,600 and something, 612 people.
Wow.
So in my lifetime, the population of the world has quadrupled. If we quadrupled the number of people just on this call, that puts pressure on everyone.
Right.
And that pressure is what the children are born into. So right from the very beginning, their upbringing has to be different to ours. Because their need is different. And
right.
So when I wanted to write this one, having taken myself away to write 100 Things, I can't do that. I've got too much to do. And I wrote about, I knew I wanted to give parents the assessment or the way to interpret their children's behavior. So I wrote that, and I was faffing around, sort of pretending to write and not writing. And then I found a mentor, and I said to her, I know what I'm doing with the writing. I know I want to write, but I need to be accountable to somebody, because otherwise it's not going to get written. And
right.
she was...
One sec, let me stop you. How long into your journey did you decide to get a mentor? Was it year 5? Was it year 4? Like, how far along into the journey of writing did you decide that a mentor was necessary?
Last year.
Wow.
Just last year.
Wow.
Just last year. So 100 Things was all mine, and I was adamant no one was ever going to look at it until it was finished and it was published, and everybody loved it anyway. But I wanted Making the Pennies Drop to be accessible. I wanted people to go, wow, I love this, which actually 2 people did as soon as I handed it to them, 2 mothers. Wow, I can't wait to do this with my children. And that's what I want. That's what I'm going to do with 100 Things as well. The content is good. It just needs a little bit of editing and stuff.
And so
Yeah.
okay, so you've gotten the mentor now, you know, to help you bring it more to life, condense it. Um, how have you found that? How have you found it now that you have the mentor? Is it better? Is it a better process?
It is a better process because the first thing she said to me was, I'm not going to interfere with your writing process. And she didn't look at it. In the end, I wanted her to see it because I was so proud of it. And I wanted her to see the finished thing. And she would, each time I spoke to her, it's like I would say, I haven't got a title. I don't know what to call it. I haven't got a title. And she'd say, don't worry, the title will come. And she'd say, how far have you got? And I'd say, well, I've written this bit and I think I ought to write. And she helped me clarify in my head. Because, 50 years experience, there's a lot in there. And I want it to be simple and I want it to be easy. And I had been told that 100 Things has so much in it that needs unpacking. And now that I've gone through the process with this one, I can see it. I know what needs to happen. And Pennies, you pick it up and you know what to do straight away. Ooh. You don't have to think about it. And I think, I've worked with incredibly sort of well-qualified professional parents. They haven't got time to think about it.
Right.
And they need it now. This is what you do. Right. And this is what you need. And so the mentor I would see every 2 weeks or whatever. And she was fantastic because she structured the process for me. So she said, how often do you want to write? How much time have you got? And she would make a note of me saving the time in my diary. So I'd put 2 hours here, 2 hours there, 2 hours there. And then I would tell her, I'm going to do 2 hours, and I would sit there sometimes and think, I don't know what to say today. But I would make myself sit for 2 hours.
Wow.
Instead of waiting till the mood took me.
But here's the thing, right? And having the mentor made you more accountable to somebody else to make sure that you are actually doing what she asked to do, because at the end of the week, you're now accountable to this person.
Yeah. And that was my request. I wanted, because there's too much, I still teach every day. Except this week is half term, yay! But I still teach every day apart from Friday, and so my head is not as quick and versatile as it used to be. So I spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to work with the children and so on, and making time to write is difficult because I have a house to run and all the rest of it. But having her say to me, how's it gone? And if I had for some reason not managed to do something that I'd said I was going to do, it gave me a clean slate instead of giving up, and saying, I had to keep going. And she would also say, when you finish that section, you need 2-week break. And I said, well, what if I want to write? No, you have to have a 2-week break. And what it did was help my process. It helped my brain, and it gave me fresh eyes. And also, at the end of writing it, before it went to editing, I had to find 10 beta readers, and I thought, I don't know 10 people. Where am I going to get 10 beta? And you feel very precious about it. Don't want people to know. But the beta readers were fantastic to have, because as a result of giving it to the beta readers, 2 of them, I said, you've got a month to read it and give me feedback. That was the deal. That they would get a copy of the manuscript, read it, give me the feedback. And 2 of them wrote to me within a week, and they were the 2 that said, I could not put this down. This is just amazing, and I can't wait for it to come out for me to do it. And then all of the feedback was very positive, and even one parent who is dyslexic said, "This is amazing. I didn't learn this stuff at school, and I'm looking forward to doing it with my children." So
Wow.
and that was a dad.
So let me ask you,
Yeah.
right? When you left teaching, 30 years ago, right? And you decided to go
20.
into this 20 years ago, and go into the venture of creating the book. What were some of the steps that you took?
I think, when I say I'm a teacher, people automatically think I tutor, which is prepare children for exams. And,
Right.
and, which, yes, I do, but no, I don't, because I'm looking at the child's personal development. They can get themselves through the exams once we've sorted out their personal development. And so I think it was more to do with the research that has gone into the books. It was how do I make this practical for other people to be able to do it? Because at one point, quite a long time ago, I know about 10 or 12 years, I was invited to the TV studio by a friend who was running a workshop for small businesses, and she knew what I was doing, and she knew it was different, and she wanted me to come along and hear about media training.
Mm-hmm.
And she, at the last minute, she said, "Can you bring a press release?" And I thought, I haven't got a clue what a press release is. I'm a primary school teacher. So I took an article that I'd written, and actually it's part of the introduction to 100 Things, but where I said in a class of, I don't know, 25 or something children, in a school day, if a teacher did absolutely nothing but interview the children one-to-one, then each child would have 10 minutes one-to-one with their teacher. And I said, this is obviously not enough time to teach a child what they need to know about the world, about themselves, about how things work, and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And this TV person, producer or whatever he was, he came to my press release at the bottom. He said, "Who wrote this?" So I said, "I did. I'm sorry, I know it's not a press release." And he said, no, where did you get this information? So I said, "I worked it out. I was in schools for 30 years. So he said, "This is original thinking." Isn't all thinking original? But anyway, this is original. He said, "I would be frightened to put you on TV unless you've taught this to somebody else."
Wow.
And I said, "No, I haven't." At that stage, I hadn't. I didn't have the book or anything. And he said, if I put you on television and parents heard this and you got 1,000 calls in the next hour, what would you do? And I thought, wow, I need to write a book. That's when I thought, I need to teach it to somebody. Okay. And it's taken all this time because, although the stories are anecdotal, the research that I've done into how learning happens and brain, the neuroscience is new. It just blew my mind when I had time to read about how learning actually happens. And that's all in here, simplified for parents as well. That the brain, from the minute the child is born, from that very second, neural pathways are being created, all these connections. And by the time a child is 3 years old, there are 3 trillion connections in the brain. I don't know who counted them. I'm not responsible. But that just blew my mind. And the brain doesn't know whether those connections are good for it or not.
Right.
And so what I try to do is say to the children, this is what you're doing now is going to have this effect on you. Is that an effect you want? You know, sometimes I'll say to them, do you know, you're really irritating me at the moment doing that. Do you want to irritate me? And they go, oh no. And I say, well, can you take control of that, please? Otherwise I'm going to blow up. And it is about helping them to take control in them. Because they want to. You know, I always used to say in school, I don't like anything children like because it's usually messy, loud. But I think we misinterpret the word fun. And fun for a child, because they ask for lessons with me.
Right.
In the holidays, you know, they ask. And I think for them, fun means achievement. When they feel they've achieved something, that is fun.
Right.
When they feel empowered, that is fun. Not all the being high on sugar and ending up in tears. That's not fun.
Well, Gail, I love it. I love it. I love everything that you're doing. I love your entrepreneurial spirit, the books you've written. Can you tell our audience where they can find or access your books if they want to purchase it?
Okay. If you purchase any of my books, they are on Amazon. They are on my website, which is www.lessonsalive.com. And the lessons is plural, lessonsalive.com. And you can get them through my website or on Amazon.
And I'll drop the link below as well.
Review, sorry?
I'll drop the link as well on the podcast so they can get access. If they go to the YouTube, they can get access to all your links. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell.
I really, really appreciate you coming on today, telling your story, telling about your books. We loved having you, and best of luck in the future. And we hope to have you on again.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, please. I love talking.
Listen, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate it, Gail.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassie.
Okay. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. One tool that I can truly recommend on how you can organize and execute systems is Notion. Notion allows you to seamlessly get information out of your head and into a centralized, organized space. Whether it's documenting processes, managing projects, or brainstorming ideas, Notion can be your go-to platform. As a special offer to our listeners, you can get started with Notion using the link in the episode description. By using our affiliate link, you not only support our podcast, but also gain access to free templates designed to kickstart your journey with Notion. These templates are specifically crafted to help entrepreneurs streamline their workflows and boost productivity. To take advantage of this offer, simply visit the affiliate link below to sign up and explore the free templates available in the resource section. Whether you're a solopreneur, managing a team, Notion can be the game changer you've been looking for. Stay tuned for more episodes where we dive deep into strategies, tools that can empower you as an entrepreneur. And don't forget to subscribe to Entrepreneurial Truth so you never miss an episode filled with actionable advice and insights. Thank you once again for joining us today. Until next time, keep innovating and scaling your business with purpose. Thanks again.